talk to your people and ask them, hey, I heard this guy talk and it got me thinking, are we doing enough recognition around here? They don't break out laughing outright. see what they say. No, we're not. No, we're not. Well, what would you like to have happen if we make our team goal?
I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett, and welcome to the Work Positive Podcast, where I coach you to grow people and profits with a positive work culture. So let me ask you this. How well does your work culture recognize employees and reward them? Not so much, kind of, sort of, maybe. Many consider my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast the leading advocate for employee recognition, engagement, and retention worldwide. He sold over 5 million books on this topic, including his latest, Work Made Fun Gets Done. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, CBS 60 Minutes, MSNBC, ABC, PBS, and NPR all featured him about how best to motivate today's employees. He's worked with 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. Lean in, listen up, and love your work on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Work Positive Nation, help me welcome today to the podcast, the guru of thank you, Dr. Bob Nelson. Dr. Bob, welcome to the Work Positive Podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, delighted to have you there. And let's see, which beach are you on there? If you're not watching this on YouTube, you really
Sunny San Diego. It's my backyard. It's not quite that close, but I am in San Diego.
I'm a baseball nut, and so whenever I go to metro areas, I love to go to baseball games. I got to tell you, I love the location of the Padres Stadium.
They did a good job with that.
Yeah, they really, really did. So I'm recognizing the San Diego Padres today. And hey, that's what we're talking about, right? Recognition. So many people, at least so many people, maybe I should say our age, are from that management school of command and control. And you got to do your job because it's the right job. I'm paying you. What am I paying you for here? Anyway, you and I both have discovered that the basis for a positive work culture is recognition is more important than salary, right?
At least as important, and many times more important, because I can give you a lot of stories of people that but one guy said, my president of my company came up to me, hey, here's your bonus check. You think you deserved it? And he turned and walked away, and it was like $15,000, and the guy was stunned. And the guy, I'm thinking, if you think I didn't deserve it, then we got a bigger problem. And within 2 months, he quit. So
wow.
It's like sometimes the money by itself is be insulting, depending on how you handle it. But we do need money. We got to pay our bills. So
right.
It's just that once you're able to pay your bills and live a standard of living to which you're accustomed, our attention quickly focuses elsewhere in terms of being part of something greater than ourselves, being part of the team, having respect and trust from those you work with, having a boss that's on your side, helping you get ahead.
Thank you.
And those type of things. And probably foremost of which brings us back to our topic is thanking people when they've done a good job. How hard is that to do? And yet
evidently a lot harder than we know about, because it just doesn't happen that much, right?
12% of employees say they get meaningful recognition when they've done good work. 12%
say they get
85% of employees feel they're overworked and underappreciated.
Wow.
And the darndest thing is that 80% of managers think they're pretty good at this topic. They read the 1 Minute Manager, know it's important to be positive, and a lot of times I've worked with 80% of the Fortune 500, so I do a lot of work in companies, and I'll get in and do interviews and focus groups, and I'll talk to a manager. Oh yeah, sounds like you're all over it, and I'll go talk to their people, and after about 5-10 minutes, they go, "Are we talking about the same person?"
Oh no.
Gary never does this stuff. I mean, when he started the job 7 years ago, he brought in donuts once. It's like, if he ever comes out of his office, it's just to bark at us for some mistake that someone made or a complaint that came in, and that's the cold hard reality, unfortunately, in most workplaces today. That if you we recognize people around here. It's called a paycheck. I get it every 2 weeks. If that's not good enough for you, there's the door. And
exactly.
A lot of people take the door now.
Yeah,
especially younger generations. 70% of millennials and Gen Z will change jobs in the next 12 months. 70%, and
that's a lot.
And every year going forward, 30% of the overall population will turn over. So if you want to put a halt to that,
Mm-hmm.
there's no better way to get started than to start being positive and start taking active time and behavior
Mm.
to acknowledge when people have done a good job. So I'm not talking about just flattery or, I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm saying it has to be real, it has to be sincere. It means you've got to be aware
Mm.
of what people are doing so you can catch them having done something right when it happens. To say something, to do something. You see something, do something. That's my message
There it
in a
is.
positive
There it
way.
is. Yeah, you said something really interesting, though. You put an adjective in front of recognition a minute ago, meaningful recognition. Who
Yes.
gets to define meaningful, Dr. Bob?
Well, meaningful, I find is putting just a little effort into it. So one, you got to get to know the person to see, and one fair question is, hey, if you do a good job, how would you like to be recognized for that?
Thank you.
Instead
Hmm.
of guessing, and see what they say, and more times than not, they're going to say, well, they may say nothing, and I wouldn't accept that because everyone needs to feel valued and validated for where they're spending the
Absolutely.
bulk of their working time. So if you have someone that says, you don't have to do anything, well, I want to do something. So think about it
Mm.
because I'm going to ask you again. And
Hmm.
I don't want to, if I guess I'm going to do something that I might like and you probably won't like. So it's going to be
Right.
missed. So help me be on target with you. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll think about it, and
And I guess we could go back to Gary and his donuts, right? Gary might like donuts, and they
yeah,
may
yeah,
be
exactly.
meaningful for Gary. But what if, let's say, I can only have gluten free, or I'm trying
Yeah,
to adjust my BMI, and so donuts are like
yeah.
diametrically opposed to my personal development right now. It really makes sense for meaningful recognition to occur based on the recipient's definition of recognition.
Absolutely. Not what you feel like doing and so it could be a thoughtful gesture for you. I'm going to give everyone coffee mugs with our project name on it and say, but it'd be much better if you
Good
talk to them
job.
what would they like. Maybe they don't want anything. They want an activity. Can we present our findings to the management team? Well,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. Let me check on that.
Hmm.
So it's often most of the times it's no cost, low cost things that actually are most motivating. And
Oh
the,
yeah.
the
Or
most
maybe I want
important
to get off
is
at
the
four
things.
o'clock to go pick my granddaughter up on Friday afternoon to go play in the park for an hour or something, you know?
For
And
example, yes, to have a little flexibility in your schedule. And there's a
right.
big brouhaha going on now in terms of back to work,
I
federal
know.
government
Get
now.
in that
2 million
office.
employees got to come into work every day. My next door neighbor works for the government, and he that simple thing where he's been doing a good job, and he works. I think he goes in every now and then, but he mainly 50 50% of employees say their work can be done remotely.
Mm.
50%. And so he's now going into the office. It takes him an extra hour and a half twice a
Hmm.
day
Yep.
to
Twice a day.
commute. And then now because everyone's coming in, he has to park over a mile away from the building
A
to walk
mile
in.
away? Oh my God.
And so his whole life is upended, and that upends his spouse's life, who has a
Yep.
business and with employees, and so now she's got to do more kid stuff, and it's a
Wow.
big ripple effect. And
Yeah.
are they getting more out of him for making that happen? It's doubtful. There's a lot of studies that have indicated that people can be more productive working virtually, working from home,
Hmm.
because one, they don't not even looking at the save time in commuting, which can be significant, but just the fact that they're not interrupted. There's not the socializing,
Hmm.
all the distractions, a lot of distractions in trying to work at the office, and
Yeah.
and to allow people to work in an environment where they can drill down on a project.
Sure.
Depends on the type of work and are they
Hmm.
customer facing and whatnot. But
Yeah.
there have been a lot of studies that say it's much more productive to
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
work
I'm not
from home.
inundated with Gary and his donuts. I don't have to keep turning those down if
Yeah,
I on there.
yeah.
Well, and that brings up a great point because distributed teams have or became the norm during the pandemic, and now there's this whole conversation about what that's going on with. Talk to us about how to create this recognition culture, which, by the way, is Dr. Bob's new newsletter on LinkedIn. You'll find his LinkedIn profile URL there in the show notes. So be sure to go there. He'd love to converse with you. but this recognition culture newsletter comes out. So, how do we create a recognition culture in a distributed team?
Sure. Well, the topic of recognition works in any relationship you have in your life. So with
Hmm.
your employees, but also works with the boss, you know. And the
Hmm.
boss needs recognition too when they've done things that are good. And it works with your neighbors, it works at church, it works with your kids. If you want your kids to pick up their room, what are you doing to get that? Nagging them? How's that working for you? You know, it's like you got you got to find something positive
Hmm.
to praise them along that journey. So Joey, thanks for carrying your folded clothes up to your room. That really helps mom. You know, we got it's so busy. It really helps when you chip in like that.
Hmm.
Joey's going to keep doing it. He's going to do
Yeah,
more, you know.
exactly.
So
I'm gonna do more.
that's praising progress towards the end result of what you want more of. And
Yeah,
so
and I love the specificity of that too, because so often it seems like when we're saying thank you, it's just a compliment like a soap bubble. Beautiful while it lasts, but how long does it last, right?
yeah,
About 30 seconds. But when we go for Velcro, right, which is what you just did, specific outcomes, specific results, and what your actions meant to someone else, man, that really
timely.
hooks me, and I want to help mom more.
Yeah, and in a timely way, the sooner you recognize something, the more likely it'll be repeated by the
Mm.
person that you recognize and thanked and praised, but also by everyone else that heard of it or saw that you did it. And you're sending a message that, excuse me, this is what gets noticed around here. This is what I'm paying attention to. It's the things that are driving our goals, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so customer service and teamwork and streamlining processes, stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. As a prelude to answering your question, so recognition works in any given relationship. If you get a critical mass of it going in all the relationships at work between managers and their employees, you get enough people doing it, you become a recognition culture. And
Mm.
culture I define as basically the way we do things around here. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Here's
just
how we roll.
so you get to the point where, oh yeah, we're always catching people doing things right. Oh yeah, we're quick to celebrate a success. Oh yeah, we're always doing stuff like that. My boss is always saying stuff like that. Then you got something different going on, and if you get to that point, research indicates this from Merritt's Inc. Out of St. Louis that your employees will feel 5 times more valued than
Mm.
a company that doesn't focus on this. They'll be 6 times more likely to have agency. That means to tell others where they work and why they love it here
Yeah,
and
attract top
what a
talent.
great company is.
Mm.
They'll be 7 times more likely to stay with the company for
What?
their career.
Seven
7
times?
times. And we're talking
Wow, that's
about
a big
no
number.
cost behavior can that type of retention, which is a huge, huge issue in our country today, and
Yeah,
11 times more committed to their job, to the manager, to the mission of the organization. So
11
big time
times.
results for something that doesn't really cost much, if anything.
Pretty low cost investment, isn't it? Yeah.
You
And
know, Voltaire in 1640 made the observation that common sense isn't very common. And this is this is it's still
true.
true today
It's
here.
an
This
oxymoron,
common
isn't it?
sense notion, what could be simpler? Thank people when they did a good job. No, I'd pay them to do a good job. Well, see how far that gets you, you know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. How's that working
people
for you when your back door is 10 times the size of your front door, right? And people are exiting
there you go.
because
And
Gary keeps bringing donuts and nobody wants donuts, right?
yeah.
Well, so
Or
in
actually, I work with
distributed,
some companies on retention and turnover, and I say, "Well,
uh
what are you doing now?" Well, you know, we got this. We're bringing people as fast as we can, and so what's your solution to stem the tide here? We're going to hire more recruiters. Oh, really? So you get them in here faster for them to look around and say, "This is a lousy place to work," and
that's
it's like,
that's
why don't you just fix the part that's broken? You know?
uh, that's
Oh,
like
we hadn't
throwing
thought of
ham sandwiches against the wall, isn't it? See what
that.
sticks.
Here you go.
Yeah, geez. Well, it seems to me that in the dynamic, whether it's in a distributed team or whether it's in an in-person team, the human mind tends to look for what's wrong.
It's
Dentists
true.
and lawyers notwithstanding, because we know they're paid big bucks to look for something wrong, right? But the human mind looks for something wrong. So where is the switch that Work Positive Nation can flip mentally to create a positive work culture and start catching people doing things right instead of wrong?
What's as simple as that is say we're not just focusing on what's wrong. We're gonna lead with focusing on what's right. And I talk to a lot of managers, and they'll start the day with a to-do list, and they don't get to anything because of all the problems and fires and complaints that come up. I go, you know what? You're in a hole. You dug yourself in a hole, and you got to crawl out of the hole and start leading the charge. You
Mm,
can't you can't drive performance by chasing people and telling them what they did wrong. You got to
mm,
get in front of the team and show them this is the way. And you do that by spotlighting. That's the way to handle that client. Thanks for jumping in and helping us. And that type of energy will drive what you want, and then get out of their way because they're going to make it happen. So
mm.
it's as simple as saying, one, realizing you got to start with realizing, well, maybe there's a better way than just, penalizing and jumping on people and embarrassing them in front of their peers. Maybe there's something else here, and there is. Like I worked with the IRS, and they were doing. I don't think this is out of school. They had a process where they'd have managers listening in on calls with the public, which is a good thing. The managers, take the time to listen in to
Sure.
help employees.
Hmm.
But what their process was is that they'd listen until they found a mistake, and then they'd write them up, and they go to the next person. And they go, "Oh, stop, back it up one here. It's great that you're listening. Focus on when you found something they did really well, and then write that up and give it
Yeah.
to them and go to the next person. Now
Mm,
you're gonna create an energy, and then, by the way, if they've been written up a couple of times, it dinks their next pay raise. So
mm,
they get all defensive, and why don't you just stop doing that and do the thing that's positive? And
mm,
and you don't have to be the command and control person in charge here, taking names and kicking butt.
hmm.
The best managers today are coaches. They're
Yes.
cheerleaders. They're
Right.
counselors.
Mm,
The whole command control thing is long gone. So if you have
mm,
a manager that's like that, you gotta try to show them the light,
hmm.
of how it could be different. And
Yeah.
and
So it begins with leadership saying, here's our focus, and then leadership acting in such a way as they're catching people doing things right. Now, some people might say, Dr. Bob, that this is, in fact, I've heard it, that this is some of that woo-woo stuff that's just come out recently. But the fact of the matter is, your book that really struck a nerve, as you say, 1001 Ways to Reward Employees. You're celebrating the 31st anniversary of that book, aren't you?
of Employee Appreciation Day, which is tomorrow, by the way, March 7th. I'm not sure when this airs, but March
Yeah.
7th, first Friday of March each year is Employee Appreciation Day, that I created 31 years ago with the release
Wow.
of the book.
And the book's been through 64 different editions, and now you're up to,
Printings,
yeah, yeah,
three
printings.
different editions.
Yeah, okay, printings. And then you're up to 1,501 ways now.
Yeah, people keep, I'd get calls from people and say, "You said this about us." I go, "Yeah," kind of, figured they're gonna say you got that wrong, but they said we do a lot more than that. I go, "Well, let me know."
Oh,
And
awesome,
so I
man.
put it in the next printing of the book, and so the book
Uh-huh.
kind of ballooned, it doubled in size. But it's all.
It's
What's kind of cool
incredible.
about that book, and in fact, any of my books, is although we both have PhDs, I'm a big believer in, I always frustrate me when I read an academic article and they'd say some Midwestern manufacturing company did such and such. Tell us who the heck you're talking about. Come on. And so I use real companies, real examples, often real comments from the actual people involved, why
Mhm.
we did it, what we got out of it, and then I put the contact information in the back of the book for all the examples, so you could
Wow.
call someone and say, "Hey, I saw you did this. I like that. Are you still doing it? What'd you do
Yeah.
after that?" And
How's it
and
working
the,
out for you? Yeah.
yeah, and 99 out of 100 people say are delighted to get a call like that. Well, let me tell you what happened and why. Because now you're basically externally validating what they're doing inside their team or inside their company. Makes them
Mm.
feel great, and it actually gives them more visibility with upper management. So,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of good things that happen when we take this woo-woo topic and put it to the test.
Yeah, and it's been testing out positively for 31 years now. So, what are some of your favorite ways that you've heard of a company rewarding and recognizing employees?
Well, there's all over the map, and a
Sure.
lot more fun and crazy.
Yeah, well, your
I
latest
had
book is about how to make work fun. So give us
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fun and
and that
crazy
has
one.
400 specific examples, real life examples. Work made
Wow.
fun gets done, and a chapter on recognition, because recognition, when you do it right, usually is pretty fun too. Not just for
Hmm.
the person receiving it, but for the person that's giving it as well. But
Hmm.
for example, I think of like Hewlett Packard. When I worked with them, they had a software engineer that one day burst into his manager's office and said, "You won't believe it. I found that software bug. He'd been working on it for weeks." His manager, knowing the importance of a timely recognition for a job well done, wanted to do something then and there, not the end of the month, end of the quarter, heaven forbid, end of the year. That's called ancient history
When
in
all
any.
great things happen the end of the year,
Exactly.
right?
And so this guy gropes around on his desk, hands the senior software engineer a banana from his lunch with the words, "Great job. I knew you could do it." Now, it probably sounds pretty silly that someone would do that, but it wasn't silly to the guy that got the banana. He showed everyone the banana the boss
Look
gave
at
him
my
and
banana.
why. It took on a life of its own. Today, in that division, Sunnyvale, California, Hewlett Packard, the most prestigious award for technical achievement is the Golden Banana Award. Not
I
not the
love
same banana. They in fact they did a whole plaque, when you find something that works, work with it to get more out of it. They give
Yes.
people a little lapel pin of a golden banana to put
No
on their
way.
name tag, and now
Love
by
it.
sight in the hallway, oh, you're part of the
Well, what?
technical achievers club.
Golden
Yeah,
banana.
exactly. What'd you do? Tell me. Boy, I got ideas like that. That's great. And it
Oh,
becomes contagious.
that
Or
is.
I worked at Qualcomm. There's just so many little things you can do. For anyone that has been part of a accepted patent at Qualcomm, which of course drives the whole company, and they
Yep.
have hundreds of people that have, they get a little icon on their name in their email address. So you see the person's name, and there's a little patent icon. It means
Uh-huh.
they actually were part of a patent that the company is now making money from. It's like
Wow.
they got Creed. So
That's what I'm talking
wow,
about.
how'd you do that?
Wow.
What'd you do? How can I help you on the next one?
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
that's the currency this works in it I just worked last company I worked with was a construction company in Los Angeles, CW Driver and Company, large construction company. One of the things they do, and they gave me one of these. It's a token. It's a little gold token, very beautiful, and
Mhm.
it's a safety award. And it's not, and when they see someone that does a safe thing, that they picked up a mop, or they give them one of these tokens, but it's not, which by itself would be significant, I found, because people will save these, remember it,
Mhm.
other people will
Mhm.
see it. But they make a little game out of it, that when they give it to someone, they call it the safety coin challenge. They say, by accepting this coin, you accept the responsibility of becoming an active part of maintaining a positive safety culture. And
Oh,
so now,
wow.
it's more that they're leaving something else with that person,
They're
a
a stakeholder
responsibility
now.
to be on the lookout for other things, and to talk to other people, and to be a safety ambassador, basically. And it's very, very effective. So, and then if you have something that's going, they can, once you got the machine going of recognition, you could take it from safety and put
Hmm.
it on cost savings, and put it on quality processes, and put it on teamwork, and put it on customer service. The machine works, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
this is the most powerful principle we know about managing people and performance,
Yeah, you
often called the
can.
greatest management principle in the world.
Yeah.
um,
And you can lay it
which
against any KPI that you want to. Just catch somebody doing something right. And
or the group goals, or the department
Mhm.
goals, or the company core values, or the strategic objectives. It does work. It will work. I've seen it work in all those instances.
And Dr. Bob, when you lay the cost of that gold coin or a banana or something in an icon in somebody's email signature alongside how much you save when, what did you say, 7 times greater retention
Yes,
than companies who don't recognize, and you got to figure it cost what, 10x to hire somebody else to replace that
yes.
person and to train them up. The
In 6 months,
ROI
getting
is,
them up to speed, all
yeah.
that, and the person you lost, all the corporate member that went with them, about our processes and clients.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I worked with a hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, and they wanted my help in improving their retention of first year nurses, which the turnover rate for first year nurses is about 37%. So more than a third of people leave before they've been there 12 months. And they thought they could make a dent on that. And so we
Yeah.
kicked it around and they did exactly three things only. And I talked about, and the first was within 30 days, giving the person a welcome letter to the hospital.
Mm.
Well, why don't they do that the first day? Well, they weren't doing it at all. So now at least they're doing it within 30 days. And then at 60 days, they would give the person a Survey Monkey questionnaire. Here's 10 questions. How's it going? Anything we could have done to make your orientation better? Any questions you have, any resources you need, that type of thing.
Mhm.
And that's all. And then at 90 days, they invited them to a meeting with the vice president of nursing to go over the survey questions
Oh, wow.
responses. And
Mm.
and they brought in a couple muffins and some balloons. That was the only physical cost they had in the whole program.
Right.
And we did that, and they tracked it, the impact of it, and they said it helped increase the retention of first year nurses in the hospital by 20%, that they calculated saved them $1.5 million.
Oh, wow.
So some muffins and balloons, some behaviors, $1.5 million savings. It's that
Cha-ching.
simple. It's
Yeah, it's simple
so
math.
if
You
it's
can do
not
that
muffins and
ROI.
balloons, what is it for you? That's the fun part of finding out. So
Mm.
talk to your people and ask them, hey, I heard this guy talk and it got me thinking, are we doing enough recognition around here? They don't
Mm.
break out laughing outright. See
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
they say. No, we're not,
Yeah.
no, we're
Prepare.
not. Well, what would you like to have happen if we make our team goal? Yeah,
Mhm.
hey, we'll go to an escape room. Maybe we'll have a barbecue. Maybe we'll invite management. Maybe we won't invite management. What do you all want to do? And then take that
Yeah.
seriously, and then actually
Mhm.
do that.
Mm, I absolutely love it. Dr. Bob Nelson is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive podcast, and we're talking about recognition and rewards. So let's talk about your books for a minute. You've got your own bookstore. The URL is in the show notes, nelson-motivation.com/bestsellers. What are some of the books we're going to find there?
Well, I've done like 32 books, and I think I've got about 20 of them in my store, and of
Uh-huh.
course, 1501 Ways to Reward Employees that you mentioned, and you also mentioned my latest, which is Work Made Fun Gets Done.
Uh-huh.
I did 1,001 Ways to Engage Employees, which
Mm,
is which recognition is the number one driver of engagement.
mhm,
I've got Ubuntu, which is a parable based on a South African principle of community and connection.
mm,
And it's all these books I do presentations about and help
mhm,
consult about. But that's just a wonderful, wonderful concept on how from the African culture, how it's embedded in their culture that they are are just attuned to the other person. Um,
mm.
I am because we are, is the whole
Love
philosophy.
it.
So it's how to bring that to a business culture of how
Mm,
to not just be me first, but how you can get more done by being inclusive of the other, involving them.
mm,
And on my research, 89% of employees want to be involved in decisions at
mm,
work that affect them.
mhm,
94% want direct open communication. 92% want to be um, when they make a mistake, they want to be instead of being yelled at and penalized, they want to be supported when they make a mistake, which can sound counterintuitive to a manager. Well, you did it wrong. What the hell? I've got
yeah.
we broke our policy. Customer complaint. But
Uh-huh.
if you take the high road and
Mm,
keep that relationship in mind, instead of the momentary glory of being the smartest person in the room and Tom embarrassing them in front of their peers, to say, I might not have done it the same way, but what'd you learn from that mistake? I bet you'll
mm,
never make that mistake again. No, I won't. Well, what did you learn that we all can benefit from?
yes.
Bill Gates, former chairman of Microsoft, he once said that you could tell a lot about the long-term viability of any organization simply by looking at how they handle mistakes.
Mm,
And it's as simple as that, taking the human element into mind and look at it as a constant learning. In fact, when I was I remember speaking to all the leaders at WD-40 and
Gary Ridge, right?
Gary Ridge, yeah, he's a great person you should have on the show.
Yeah,
And
he was on our very first episode in the season 1, and this is the 3rd season. So,
oh, there you go. Well, I was talking to all of his leaders worldwide, and it was just stunning. I stumbled on the topic of talking about my stuff and creating a culture of recognition and greater engagement, and I hit on the topic of mistakes. And Gary's sitting in the front row. He goes, "Dr. Bob, we don't have mistakes here. We have," in the entire group, like hundreds of people in unison go, "learning opportunities."
That's right.
I'm like, okay, we're done here.
We got that one nailed.
They got a culture that, and by the way, 99% of their employees are excited to tell other people where they work. They've got so much pride, and that's they're ambassadors for the company. 93% engagement rate, and
it's crazy.
that doesn't happen by accident. It happens
by
and
that's across 76
attention.
countries as well. So
yeah,
it's an amazing story of Gary's leadership. So,
it is.
Dr. Bob Nelson, Work Positive Nation always wants to know one of my guests, so I can't let you get away without answering this question. What's your one thing you would suggest to Work Positive Nation to start doing today to create a positive work culture that emphasizes recognition?
Yeah, just take the time to do it. Take the time, the people that are closest to you in your life, at your employees, at work, your colleagues, your spouse, your neighbors, take the time to do something, to say something nice about them. That's real, not made up. I'm not talking about flattery here. I'm talking about, hey, thanks for taking the time for doing such and such. I know you're busy. Whatever it is, just do that. That's taking the first step, and you will get a different and better response back from them. They could be more likely to want to do stuff for you because you are showing that you have concern for them. So that would be it. Take the time. Tomorrow's Employee Appreciation Day. For example, doing a simple thing like for each of your employees to jot a note. I did this a couple years ago. I had 16 employees at the time, and I wrote each of them like a one-page letter and just reflected over the past year on successes they had and things we'd done together and just being honest and real about specific real stuff where they had achieved. I had 2 of my employees cry. They were so moved by it, and it's not that hard to do, and you get incredible connection from it. You can become a magnet for talent where people think twice or 3 times about leaving because they know in all likelihood next job they go to they could be working for a jerk. It's only one out of every 4 or 5 managers that any of us will have in our entire careers that will think we're good managers. And at the top of the list for good managers is this type of stuff, taking time to get to know the person, to thank them when they do good work, to have their back, to help them on their journey of their career and where they want to go next.
Dr. Bob Nelson, thank you so much for your time, the gift of your wisdom. I'm feeling better for this conversation, and I'm sure Work Positive Nation is too, man. We really appreciate the great work that you're continuing to do.
Thank you, Dr. Joey. Anytime you want me back on, I'll in a heartbeat.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Please share this podcast with your friends who are HR and small business leaders so they can do one thing today to create a positive work culture that increases productivity and profits. I'd like to give you a free Work Positive course just for listening. It's called Something to Talk About, and it's transformed the work conversations of so many people all over the world. Get your free copy when you go to workpositive.today/something to talk about, and you can start transforming your conversations today. Remember, it pays to work positive.